This is the I without the disorder, and today I'm going to talk about the different trauma responses. So this is the first part where I talk about fight, flight, and freeze, and then there will be another part that will be about freeze and collapse. So usually people have heard of the fight and flight response, and they might also have heard of the two parts of the nervous system, which are the sympathetic and the parasympathetic part. So fight and flight are part of the sympathetic system. And usually people also learn that the parasympathetic system is only there to kick in when you feel calm and safe, and it's all about relaxing and rest and digest. But it sort of goes deeper than that, because there are also trauma responses that are part of the parasympathetic system. So fight and flight might seem pretty straightforward. When there's a danger, the nervous system decides to either try and fight off the danger or to run away. But when there is ongoing trauma since the birth of a person, as in childhood abuse, it usually happens that a person gets stuck in the primary trauma response. And when this primary trauma response is fight, for example, it doesn't always have to mean, it doesn't always have to look like physically attacking a person. So someone who's in a chronic fight state will display chronic anger. So anger is the emotion that's connected to the fight response, which means that they might not seem like they are angry all of the time, but the emotion of anger will drive their behavior and how they interact with other people. So it might look like verbally abusing others, and the motto is sort of, I attack you before you attack me. So it comes from a place of trauma and from fear, but the person will have gotten so disconnected from the fear because they are just stuck in the fight response, in the emotion of anger. So it can be really covered like passive aggressiveness. They might be a very sarcastic or cynical person, or they might give another person a silent treatment all of the time. They might seem like a happy person, but just make really cruel jokes all of the time, for example. So fight doesn't have to be, stand out like that. It can be really covered, and typically someone whose primary trauma response is fight and who's stuck in that, they will have learned how to socially mask their anger, because we learn that, overtly attacking someone is not socially acceptable. So they will have learned how to mask that and to do it in a way that is perceived as socially acceptable. And people usually who have fight as a primary trauma response are on the narcissistic spectrum of personality. So they really lack empathy and compassion, and they are not in touch with their emotions, so not with their own vulnerability. With flight, I think it can be even more overt if somebody has this chronically and is stuck in there, because it can be really abstract what flight looks like. So if we just express it as some sort of escapism and distracting themselves from the trauma, it can be, for example, perfectionism. So as a child, they might believe that maybe if they do this, or maybe if they are perfect, then maybe the parents will love them and accept them. So they're sort of trying to run away from the horrible truth that there's nothing they can do to be loved and accepted by the parents, or to be treated in the way that they deserve. So perfectionism can look like anything. It can be some things that I usually, or some things that are very common, is people trying to look perfect. They get obsessed with their appearance. They try to fix their bodies because they think there's something wrong with them, right? So they have to try and be better. Or they can be a fitness junkie and be obsessed over working out and trying to have a perfect body in that way. Or they might be obsessed with their career. Can be any type of obsession where someone's trying to be perfect, and they might feel like they are reaching, or like they are trying to reach an attainable goal, but they will never feel like they reached that goal, because nothing they do will make them feel better. Nothing they do will sort of fill that emptiness that they have inside, which comes from the trauma and from not having been given care and love, and having been made to feel that they are good as they are, and they are sort of trying subconsciously to reach that feeling. But as I explained in my previous video about the dysfunctional family roles, flight can also look like being the family mascot. So being someone who always makes jokes, who is always trying to be funny, and in that way is trying to distract from the trauma and their painful emotions. Or the distraction can be, some sort of activity, playing video games, reading books, watching films, getting lost in another world. So living in a fictional world is also something that's very common for people who have experienced childhood trauma. They sort of try to escape reality and run away, literally, with their mind into another world which is perceived as better, or where they can be who they want to be. Or in a very simple way, flight can just look like the child in an abusive family spending as much time as possible away from home and spending it more with friends or other people, and just trying not to think of what's going on at home and not being there with their minds. Okay, another trauma response is that of please, or it also gets called fawn. This is not really part of the nervous system. It's neither the sympathetic nor the parasympathetic, because this is a social response. So please is all about trying to appease the person who feels like a threat. And when people get stuck in this chronically, they will end up being people pleasers. So they won't be in touch with their own needs and what they want. They might not feel like having a sense of identity, and this can be someone who has been in the role of a parentified child, but it also can be a different role. So because they experience as a child that people are dangerous, they will be constantly in this please state and try to figure out what other people want and to take care of other people and to behave in a certain way that is agreeable to someone. So it can be very different from one person to another depending on what they think the other person wants. And for these people, it is the most likely that they will end up in a relationship with a narcissist and become an enabler. So they enable the role of the narcissist as the most powerful parent if it's a family. So this was the first part, and I'll see you at the second part. Bye!